Hi, it's me again. I'm Nafid. In this part of the ClearPass Policy Manager series, part 3, we'll talk about the enforcements. So it's two parts basically. In the enforcement, we talk about the enforcement actions, which are we call them enforcement profile. We talk about enforcement policy, which are the kind of conditions to take actions. What if the condition A, for example, or condition A and B take that action? How to use that one inside the service policy, which is the one that will authenticate the users. And then finally, we would like to test the solution. Let's have a look. I'm going to modify the service. So because we're going to use different also WLAN for tunneling to test connectivity from ClearPass. So, and that's our service, secure wireless. And in the service conditions, we're going to change this one from equals to contains, because the name of the new WLAN is secure tunnel. So contains, that will make it easier to cover other WLANs. We look at Aruba Central here. And now in Central, what we've done, we created another WLAN. So we went to the AP group. Again, this is outside the scope of this training, but I'll not show you. And I will explain this on other videos. So I created a secure tunnel. Now what happens really in this case, as you could see from the depiction of the network connectivity, this is from a gateway. And so they will be tunneling, because the traffic will hit the access point, tunnel to the gateway, and the gateway we have used in that cluster. And then the VLAN they're going to leave on is VLAN 33 employee. Now the gateway has a different IP. It means we have to go back and amend the NAT device in ClearPass. And we will show you now the gateway IP, and we will make sure that that IP, otherwise you will get, if you get a request from unknown device which is not added, like in the ClearPass here, we can see in the event viewer errors like authentication. It tells you that radius authentication attempt from unknown NAT device. So that NAT device is the IP address at this stage of the gateway itself. Now we have not initially added that one to the NAT device list in ClearPass. So what I've done, I went to ClearPass config, I went to network and devices. You will need to add that specific IP. So you would like to go add. We can add individual, if you like, individual device, or we can add multiple devices in the range. So let's call it, in this case, all gateways. And we're going to just go 172.16.00/16. So this means anything in that range will be accepted. And that's the key. And we're going to say add. Now all gateways, anything in that range will be accepted. That will include, as we could see it in the event viewer, will include this IP 172.16.61.100, and that will be included in that range of devices. So modified the service, modified the NAT devices, created tunnel mode WLAN. So we have two WLANs now. We're gonna test the connectivity from Aruba, from a device, and then we'll double check ClearPass to see access tracker, what does it tell us. And then we're going to review the client in the Aruba Central. So that's our tunnel SSID. We'll log in with the test user. And that's the data path, or the data path for the client. As you can see, it is tunnel and has an overlay tunnel. Now we would like to look at how ClearPass can push back i.e. in the access accept message, once the user is connected and authenticated, what actions can ClearPass do? We call this one enforcement profiles. So we're going to look at that and how we configure the enforcement profiles to use them. And then we use the enforcement policy to create conditions to use certain actions. So we're going to start with the enforcement profile. Now we can see the 4 of them. We filtered based on the keyword assigned. In the name, we have created 4 enforcement profiles, which are the actions that will be taken should certain conditions be fulfilled. And here we will create the enforcement policy. So we created the enforcement profiles, which are the actions that will be taken. And just to review, and if you remember enforcement profiles, we have created these 4. What happens, for example, this one will send back an Aruba user role, which is a VSA, vendor specific attribute, that's called employee full. Now that employee full exists inside Aruba Central access point and gateway. So this is the firewall role, and we created ones in Aruba Central, gateway, as well as AP. Now we need to use these, and we put the conditions, and that's also called enforcement policy. We're going to create one now, and let's call it now. If no conditions met, we will go and say deny. We don't want people to be able to access, so I'm going to deny access profile. Now we need to put the rules, like the if conditions. If a condition or conditions take this action. So we'll show you an example, and then I will create all of them, then we'll show them all together. And the logic we're gonna go, we add a rule here. Here we call it tips role equals. So these are the roles that we have created before. So we're gonna use the first one is corporate role. If this one equals corporate role, then what action to take? Corporate action. So basically, the condition here, we will go for tips, and we're going to say if the role equals. So we have 2 conditions. This is corporate, as well as if the role equals computer role, then assign employee full. So that's, so basically in this rule, we have 2 conditions, and we're going to create the same to assign an action, take an action. So we have 2 conditions, 1 action would be taken, and we'll add other rules as well in the same basis. I'll show you once I finish all of them. So it looks like this. Each one of these has 2 conditions, and we will assign an action. The last one, we say if you cannot categorize, i.e. the device category doesn't exist, then assign profile only. And as a good practice, we'd like to move that bottom one to the top, so you can always move it up. And then we're going to go next, and that's a summary of our enforcement policy, the logic. We will take this enforcement policy and use it in our service. So we will adapt the service and change it. We're going to say save. We'll go back to the service. That's our service. And if you remember, the enforcement policy was generic one. Now we created a new one, and this is the one that we just created. These are the conditions, and we're going to test it. We'll also enable profiler, so profile endpoints. And the reason we do this is so when the device initially connect, they don't know the category, so no profiling information. And we're going to say if you profile, what to do, send a COA. So they're going to send a COA or dynamic authorization to terminate the session. In this case, that will enable the client to reconnect again, will get a better action or a better privilege in this case. So we're going to send Aruba termination. And in the service also, we will enable authorization. If you enable the authorization option here, you must add a new one, because this is by default and this is to take action. So what we're going to add is endpoint repository, because we're going to read from that one. So in the endpoint repository, and we're going to save this. So the service has been updated. Just to review, in the authentication it's the same, no difference. In the service, we have enabled authorization as well as profile endpoints. Authorization tab shows up. We added another authorization source. We call it second level authorization, and that's the endpoint repository. And then in the profiler, we said if once you discover the category of the machine, immediately send a COA wireless, which is Aruba OS. And remember, we have used the role mapping policy. So the what happens now, the clients connects, whether that's wireless or wired. So in this case, it's a wireless. And when the client connects, as far as ClearPass is concerned, it is unknown client. So who is this client? We have not seen it before. So this might go through a gateway or standalone access point. That's beyond the point. So what we need to do in this case, initially the first time the client connects, it's unknown. So it might say, okay, get a DHCP server request, and the ClearPass will see that request coming in. And what happens really now, I know the category. So what do I need? So because I don't know the device initially, I'll give them limited access. Okay, and that's one of the things that you normally give limited access to allow them to get an IP, DNS. So once they become an IP, then that device become visible to you as far as ClearPass is concerned. So I need to send back a COA. I need to instruct a COA to disconnect the client. The client will reconnect again. For that to work, I have to configure that server. If that is a bridge mode, then I have to do it on the access point. If that is tunnel mode, then I have to do it as well on the gateway. And we call this one dynamic authorization server. We have to do that to be accepted, meaning if the ClearPass send back a COA message and you have not configured these NAT devices to accept, then that will be rejected or will be ignored completely. So that will be ineffective in a sense. So to be able to do this, we are now on the access pointer group, for example, and in the authenticate under security, you need to add an authentication server, and the type of that is dynamic authorization. And let's call it ClearPass. That's fine, COA, and the IP address for that is our server. So now we have added this one to the access pointer group. We're going to do something similar to the gateway group. So we need to go to the gateway, and we go in the config here, and we go security again, then authentication servers. Under the authentication servers, we already have the ClearPass. These are the groups, and we have the ClearPass. We're going to add another server, and that server type is going to be RFC 3576, which is the same. IP is 10.254.1.70, and then password is, and we're going to say save. So now everything is ready to work with each other. The components are basically are ready for us to use. So coming back, and so when we send this back now, it is going to be accepted by the NAT device, either the gateway or the access point. And remember, how would ClearPass know about the DHCP request? So what do you do in this case? In the WLAN configuration, when you configure WLAN, whether that's bridge mode or tunnel mode, of course you're going to say you will have the VLAN XYZ, whatever, say VLAN 10, right? So that VLAN 10, when you configure that VLAN, you will configure that VLAN on the, say, gateway, or it depends. In the VLAN itself, you will configure DHCP server. DHCP will configure two things: the real DHCP and the ClearPass as a DHCP. That will not respond, but it will see the messages. So ClearPass will receive all these messages, that is DHCP request from the client, and it will have visibility, and it will be able to figure out what that client is. Remember, we have configured two SSIDs, one called secure, that will live on VLAN 61, the VLAN, and the other one called tunnel, and that will leave the tunnel one, and that will live on VLAN 33. So the default gateway where these VLAN exists, where the DHCP IP helper, we need to add the ClearPass under the IP helper. So this is the one that we are going to just add it now. I'll show it to you. So show interface VLAN 61, and it has IP helper. That's the real IP for the real DHCP. We're gonna add IP helper address. Another helper will be 10.254.1.70, which is the ClearPass. I'm gonna write mem, and we're gonna show interface VLAN 61, for example. We're gonna see we have added it. So the request will be sent to these two. We're gonna do something similar on VLAN 33. So we're gonna go interface VLAN, show interface VLAN 33. We're gonna see also the same. We're gonna add that IP for the DHCP server, which is going to be ClearPass IP. Remember, ClearPass is not a DHCP server, but will have visibility into the request. So we're gonna add another IP helper, 10.254.1.70. I'm gonna save mem. Now, so let's test the solution now. And the purpose of this, to see what ClearPass will send back to the devices, to the NAT device, to the access point and gateway. So we're gonna connect to secure, because now this is the bridge mode. And probably we can say employee, which is going to be corporate. Now it is connected. Let's have a look at the access point. There's no gateway because that's bridge mode now. We will look at the access point. What role does the client have in this case? First of all, we'll look at the access tracker. That's employee, that's the time, which is today's time. And the user was given corporate role as well as computer role. So these two. So because these two, computer and corporate role, it means full access. As per our policy, should be the output should be sending back employee full. So now, if we go to Aruba Central and double check the user, so go to the client, you see the client listed. We're going to see the client and the role that was sent to the client, AP role, employee. Okay. So that's what it is. Now you see gateway role here. Don't worry much about it at this stage, because the client connected at some stage to the gateway and the gateway had retained this role, and this is kind of caching the role for future connectivity, but it's irrelevant in this case because that's not connected to the gateway. We'll test the client again with the gateway with the same, but with a different username, which is the local user. That should be given less different role based on the conditions. So we're gonna forget this. We are able then to connect again, and then we're gonna go with a different user, test user. That should be assigned different role now. So we go to access tracker, test user. Then these are the enforcement profiles that are used: assign temp access role, and because it's given the roles temp role and computer role. Yeah, so the output that would be sent back will be temp access. You can console if you would like. You can console to the we can see it from different ways, but you can console the access point now. So the access point, the AP role is temp access. Again, that will be applicable if you connect to the gateway as well. So, and the tunnel mode, we're going to test it for one employee, and then we'll show you the gateway role. The user will get the role, as well as in the AP, they will get also another role, the same as we wanted it to be. So here we connect to secure tunnel, and let's say we're going to go test where we got employee. Now on ClearPass, the output will be employee full. Remember, this is tunnel mode, so in the input, you will notice that the NAS IP will be different than the NAS ID. NAS IP is the proxy, which is the gateway, and the NAS ID never changes, which is the IP address of the access point. And if you go to central and see, this might not reflect immediately, but you should be able to see the client that is connected to both and should be tunnel client. So that's employee full connected to that SSID. And if you go and click on the client, and in the data path, you see there's a tunnel. Yeah. In this part of the video, we have discussed what is the enforcement policy and how it relates to enforcement profile, how to integrate it inside the service policy that will send back into the NAT device instructions, something like Aruba VSA, vendor specific attribute, and how these instructions can impact what firewall roles that will be assigned to the user. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in future videos.